I'm sure some of you guys thought I was kidding. I'm sure some of you guys thought that OMB was not a real disease. Now, for those that don't know, OMB, that is an acronym for Orange Man Bad. The disease mainly affects members of the woke media. For example, the Yentas on The View, they all have various stages of OMB. Alyssa the Farrah Griffin has a stage 2 case. The disease is rapidly spreading though, and she could be upgraded to stage 3, possibly even stage 4 by the time of the election in November. The Radiant Sun host, and she has been diagnosed with stage 3 OMB. The Yenta with the worst case is easily Big Red Joy Behar. Sometimes her symptoms are so bad her shoulders have difficulty balancing that Superdome covered in red hair dye. Now, I have never worked in the mainstream media, thank God, so I don't know this for certain, but it seems like a diagnosis of OMB is required in order to collect woke welfare from one of these mainstream media outlets. If you haven't been diagnosed, that's okay. That's okay. They will take good care of you. There have been many people who show up for their first day at CNN as a normal person. 2, maybe 3 years later, they have achieved the status of grade A shitfuck. Bob Costas, he has been a member of the mainstream media for as long as I've been alive. He's always had this smugness about him. Bobby C has always been kind of an elitist, but make no mistake about it, Bob Costas is an absolute legend in the media. He got his start in Chicago working for WGN. He was calling games for the Chicago Bulls when the franchise was the biggest dump in the NBA. This was before Super Jordan flew in on his cape and not only saved the franchise in Chicago, he also saved the entire league. What I remember most, though, about Bob Costas is his time spent with NBC in the 90s. He was the face of their NBA coverage. He called games in the NFL and Major League Baseball, the Olympics. When the NFL left NBC for Fox, the network decided to broadcast the XFL. They wanted Bob Costas to be the media face of the league. When he was presented with the offer, Bob Costas made what I think was the smartest decision of his media career. He told Dick Ebersol, "No thanks, I only cover real sports. I'm not willing to be the face of your Pee-wee football league." Bob Costas has been in the media for over 5 decades, so it shouldn't be all that surprising that Bob Costas has one of the most severe cases of OMB that doctors at Woke U have ever seen. His symptoms of OMB are so strong, pretend Dr. Jill Biden, the lead doctor at Woke Memorial Hospital, she hasn't been able to determine the proper treatment to manage the symptoms. Earlier this morning, Bob Costas appeared on CNN. He was on something called Smirconish. KC, what the hell is a Smirconish? I have no idea. Sounds like a fancy salad that you would be served at an upscale restaurant in Switzerland. It's also a weekly show on CNN. Somehow, this show's been on the air for 10 years and people have still never heard of it. Show is hosted by Michael Smirconish, who claims to have been a lifelong Republican until 2010 when he decided to become an independent. Lifelong Republican. Now, I'll admit, I don't know anything about Mike Smirconish, but I'm having a hard time believing that a Republican or an independent would be collecting woke welfare from CNN. But for reasons unknown, Smirconish, he thought it would be a good idea to bring a veteran sportscaster on his show to educate the handful of people watching on the upcoming election. And by educate, I mean tell them who to vote for. Now, to his credit, Michael Smirconish, he asked Bob Costas why he doesn't want to see Trump get elected again. Now, if you were to ask me the very same question about John Biden, I would give you a variety of legitimate reasons as to why I don't want another 4 years of incompetence with Johnny B. Biden. Our southern border is spread wider than Jackie Mahomes' caboose during a twerking competition. Our enemies across the world, they have been emboldened. Well, Casey, are you talking about the cyber attack on Thursday on AT&T? No, I don't think that was a cyber attack anyway. I think that's just another example of AT&T being completely useless. I'm talking about Vlad Putin. I'm talking about Daddy G. Talking about the way John Biden handled our exit in Afghanistan. I mean, that was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? Let's leave the Middle East and leave billions of dollars in weapons behind. The administration of John Biden hires people based on their race, gender, and their proclivities in the bedroom. John Biden made Rachel Levine the Assistant Secretary of Health. Why? Who the hell knows? If I had to guess, it's because Rachel was born Richard. Under the incompetent leadership of Johnny B. Biden, crime in major cities has reached record high levels. People living in San Francisco who have been diagnosed with OMB, they can't get the medications needed to alleviate the symptoms. Most of your major pharmacies, they refuse to operate in the city of rainbows because the only customers they had were shoplifters. For the first time in my lifetime, and maybe the first time in American history, many people believe that the federal government is being weaponized against the political enemies of John Biden. Donald Trump has more court dates than campaign rallies. I haven't even mentioned his age yet. I was trying to get through this without being an ageist, but John Biden, he is starting to look like Methuselah. There isn't enough Botox available to eliminate all the wrinkles. Recently, he was deemed unfit to stand trial, but for some reason, we are expected to believe that he is capable of running the country. I could keep on going, but you get the point. If you were to ask me why I don't want 4 more years of John Biden, I could summarize it by saying he's a disaster. When the same question is asked to Bob Costas about the Trumper, listen to how he responds. Roll the film.
Yes, absolutely. He is by far the most disgraceful figure in modern presidential history. He's only become more disgraceful since 2016 and since 2020. He is a bubbling cauldron of loathsome traits, and it's only those who are actually suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, which is the way they and Fox News and all the rest of MAGA media try to brush aside all the legitimate criticisms of Trump. You have to be in the throes of some sort of toxic delusion in a toxic cult to believe that Donald Trump has ever been, in any sense, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, or ethically fit to be president of the United States. There is no cult of Joe Biden. Even if halfway through this term he had said, look, I've done my job, I have some policy successes, I'll continue to do my job, and now the Democrats can get, as I said before, some people up in the bullpen and sort through it. He had a chance to be seen as a statesman and a patriot.
I wonder why some people believe that Bob Costas is an elitist. What he basically just said was, if you support Donald Trump, something is mentally wrong with you. This is similar to the message that the NBA sent to their fan base in 2020. The NBA's message was slightly different. They accused their fans of mythical racism if they chose to support Donald Trump, but the desired outcome is still the same. They were still trying to convince people not to support the Trumper. How'd that work out for the NBA? Here we are 4 years later, and the NBA still hasn't recovered. Now, of course, Bob Costas, he's not worried about that. At 71 years old, his media career is essentially over. But did you notice the hatred in his voice? This hatred, it isn't exclusive to Bob Costas. There seems to be a severe hatred throughout the mainstream media towards anyone who supports Donald Trump. Trump supporters are vile, insufferable rednecks who have no place in a civilized society. They claim to hate Trump and his supporters because they're divisive. We have zero tolerance for mean tweets. I don't know about you guys, but I miss the mean tweets. You know why mean tweets were such a big problem? Because everything else was under control. Gas was below $2 a gallon, which was a nightmare for worshipers of the oak tree. But the rest of us, we prefer cheap gas. Cows were allowed to fart in peace. There were no wars going on around the world. Vlad Putin wasn't invading Ukraine. American streets were safe until George Floyd. I don't remember Trump supporters dividing the country by peacefully protesting in major cities. Do you? I seem to remember those peaceful protests being organized by parishioners at Woke United Methodist. The reason Bob Costas couldn't give you one legitimate reason as to why he doesn't want 4 more years of Donald Trump is because he doesn't fucking have one. Bob Costas isn't stupid. He's no dummy. He knows the country was in better shape under the Orange Man. He knows that John Biden is an unmitigated disaster. But Bob Costas, he can't say things like that because if he does, his invitation to the Butt Bongo Festival would be rescinded. Let me tell you how biased our media is, and I know you guys already know this, but this is just another example of it. According to Rolling Stone, Donald Trump is the worst president in American history. Why? Because a group of 154 of what they call presidential scholars said so. The 81 million people that voted for Donald Trump in 2020, their opinion doesn't matter to Rolling Stone, but we are supposed to believe the opinion of 154 nameless faces who call themselves scholars. Bob Costas, he did say one thing during his unhinged rant that I happen to agree with. Towards the end of the clip, Bob Costas said that John Biden had a chance to be a patriot. I happen to agree. Matter of fact, I think John Biden still has that chance. I think all of us would consider Johnny B. Biden a patriot if he would just go away and take every member of this administration with him. Take that doofus FBI director with you. What's his name? He used to be Judy Garland's husband, Myrick or Merrick. Who cares? It doesn't matter what his name is. Take your press secretary too, the lady with 3 or 4 first names. And please, for the love of God, don't forget your pretend vice president, Cam Harris. When he was campaigning back in 2015, I wasn't entirely sold on Donald Trump. I mean, he was definitely the better option over Hillary Clinton, but I thought Donald Trump paid too much attention to the mainstream media. At the time, I didn't like him constantly fighting with the media. As president, I thought it was beneath him. But 8 or 9 years later, I completely understand why Donald Trump was doing it. I think one of the reasons that the mainstream media has a deep-seated hatred for the Trumper, he was the first president that exposed him. He was responsible for destroying the credibility of the media, and they have never been able to restore it. He labeled CNN fake news. Rachel Maddow lost all her credibility with her obsession with the illusion of Russian collusion. The media, they are absolutely terrified of Donald Trump. And anytime the mainstream media is fighting this hard against someone, it makes me want to support them. In most cases, I want to be on the opposite side of the media. But anyway, give me your thoughts on this. Bob Costas unleashes an unhinged rant where he demonizes Donald Trump and his supporters. We don't talk about Bob Costas much here on the channel. What do you guys think of Bob Costas? Also, what are your thoughts on the upcoming election? I know we're still 8 months away, but all signs seem to be pointing to a Donald Trump victory. Does John Biden have a chance? Do you think he will even be the nominee? Or could it be Michelle Obama or the governor of the People's Republic of California, Gabby Newsom? Let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.